Hello everyone, Lytro Storm here, and today we're back with part 5 to our collab with Vegan Saiyan. What if Turles was Bardock's brother? If you haven't seen our first 4 parts, check them out using the playlist linked in the description. And once you're done with this video, go watch part 6, which should be out now on Vegan Saiyan's channel. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into part 5 now. So Frieza and his men would make their attack on Earth in the Golden Frieza arc, but this time our defenders would be Jaco, Krillin, Tenshinhan, Roshi, Piccolo, Nappa, Goten, and Trunks. With all of them there, they'd be able to easily wash most of Frieza's forces. Then when it comes to Tagoma and Shisami, Goten and Trunks are more than enough to handle them together. After they're beaten, Tagoma gets body swapped by Frog Ginyu, and he starts fighting instead. However, even then, Goten and Trunks just have to use Super Saiyan 2 to beat him up with zero effort. All of the energies that are high allow for Turles to lock onto their ki and instant transmission all of the Crusher Core to Earth. Now that Turles sees Frieza face to face, he's not going to let anyone get in his way of killing him. Not like Goku or future Trunks did the last few times. This is his revenge for his planet, his friends, and his brother all those decades ago. Frieza sees Turles and asks where his friend Goku is, but the Saiyan replies that he's not here to get in his way this time. Now it's just him and Frieza. The Emperor asks about Vegeta, but Turles says that he's dead as well. This gives Frieza some joy, as now he only has to kill one Saiyan. He powers up into his 4th form and begins the battle with Turles. However, due to Turles having trained with 5 extra sparring partners along with Whis, his base form was quite a bit above Frieza's. So Turles is going to be able to beat Frieza pretty easily. This eventually pushes the Emperor into his golden form, so Turles unveils his new form as well. He powers up and goes Super Saiyan Blue. The two now clash, with a more even fight taking place now. Turles does still have a slight edge, but Frieza is able to handle it pretty decently. Turles makes sure that there isn't anything that could get in his way by telling the Crusher Core to kill any left of Frieza's army. This means Sorbet won't be catching him off guard like he did with Goku in the canon timeline. Turles and Frieza continue to clash, with both of their forms wearing down over time, but luckily Frieza's golden form runs out a little sooner than Turles' blue form. This means that he's finally got the chance to kill Frieza, but he takes the time to revel in his victory, drawing it out for as long as he can. He's waited for this moment forever, so it makes sense that he would get a little cocky here. But luckily for Frieza, that's what he counted on. While Turles was talking trash, Frieza blasted the Earth, instantly destroying it. But thankfully, Whis had saved the others besides Frieza and Turles, so he can now rewind time. He tells them that this is their one shot to kill Frieza, as he won't be doing that again. The squad agrees, and so Whis takes them back, allowing for Days, Almond, Cacao, Lacazette, and Raisin to blast Frieza together. With all their full powers combined, they easily kill the Emperor. He and his men had killed them before in the Namek arc, so this was a fitting revenge for the Crusher Core. Turles was a little upset, as this is the 3rd time he's had Frieza's death stolen away from him, but once he realized that he was being cocky, it made more sense why they had to do that. He thanked his crew and began thinking on what to do next. He's trying to maintain the legacy of his family here, but he just isn't quite ready to be the hero the world needs. If he was, he wouldn't have been cocky and nearly let Frieza destroy the planet. If Goku was still around, he would have taken things more seriously. He knew the kind of threat Frieza was. He was a real hero, who stood up to Frieza and gave it all he had, just like Bardock did before him. Wait, that's it. Turles might not be able to look for guidance in his nephew, but his brother just might be alright with coming back. This was perfect. Bardock always knew the hard calls and always seemed smarter than Turles, so he gathered the Dragon Balls and wished for his brother's soul to be transported to Earth and then brought back to life. Bardock is reborn, now being very confused as to what's going on. Turles looks at Bardock and lets his brother know that he resurrected him. It takes some time to process for the Saiyan, as he's been gone for decades now and now he's on a new world. But Turles is able to inform him of the important events. He met Kakarot and fought him, they teamed up to beat Frieza, Nappa and Vegeta were involved, they saved multiple timelines, defeated Majin Buu, fought a god of destruction, and they just killed Frieza a 2nd time. Bardock asks where Kakarot and Vegeta are, and Turles lets him know that they died. Kakarot died during their timeline troubles and decided to stay dead so the next generation of fighters could take over, being led by Turles. And Vegeta sacrificed himself against Majin Buu and was reincarnated, but he's a little too young for them to go after him now. Bardock also wants to know what happened to Raditz, and Turles replied that he killed Kakarot once and died in the process, so they never brought him back since he was a pretty bad guy. Bardock is kind of saddened to hear that, but it's alright. His brother and younger son defeated Frieza, which was what he wanted to happen after his death. So if Raditz was a bad guy and didn't really ever change, then too bad. It doesn't really make much sense for them to bring him back. And both Kakarot and the prince died as heroes, which is great to know. Bardock asks why Turles brought him back now, and he replies that he just needed guidance. He's been the one responsible for training the next generation and protecting the Earth, and Frieza returning reminded him of what he did to their people, so he thought he could seek help in Bardock. His brother accepted this, and Turles let him know that he had a long way to go before he caught up to them in power. But with enough training, he can make it. He takes Bardock into the time chamber and tries to spar with him. Granted, he has to hold back an unfathomable amount, but it's worth it to catch his brother up to speed. They spent about 3 days in there, making Bardock much more powerful already. Training with someone so strong was a great help to Bardock's own strength. After the second day, Super Saiyan was an easy achievement for the warrior. Turles spent the third day helping his brother perfect the form and push to Super Saiyan 2, which took time, but was done by the end of the third day. So now the two stepped out with Bardock being much more powerful and Turles being a lot wiser. Not only had he learned how to mentor someone much easier, but he had also learned some of Bardock's fighting style and way of thinking. This helped him learn how to control his own ego, which was very useful. After this, Turles properly introduced Bardock to everyone else, letting the Z-Fighters know that he was going to join them in training from now on. After seeing this, the Crusher Corps decide to go back to Beerus' planet to get more training with Whis in. Meanwhile, Turles, Nappa, Piccolo, Goten, and Trunks would all help make Bardock stronger while also improving themselves by training on Earth. After some time, Beerus and Champa would have a disagreement over food and decide to make a tournament between their universes. Beerus asks Turles to pick 3 other people besides him to join, as he already has a 5th choice. This is obviously going to be Monaka. Turles agrees, but he wants a little more. If they accept this, he wants his men to have personal training with Beerus himself. They're interested in the stuff he knows. Beerus, wanting to defend the food of Earth and also his honor, decides to agree reluctantly. And so Turles chooses Bardock, Piccolo, and since he can only pick one more, he chooses Gotenks. So Goten and Trunks will just have to fuse and conserve their energy. But for now, they decide to use the time chamber once again. Piccolo doesn't want to go in since he did it in canon, so Turles, Bardock, Goten, and Trunks go in without him. But since there are 4 people instead of 2, they'll only be able to go in for a day and a half rather than 3. But even that is great, since the gap between Turles and the others is large, so after the boost, they would gain way more power. Goten, Trunks, and Bardock by the end are far more powerful. They then spend the remainder of their time just chilling until the tournament. When the time comes, Whis brings everyone to the tournament stage, and Beerus introduces them to Monaka, their 5th fighter. The God of Destruction puts him in last, and the gang think of an order themselves. Since Bardock is the weakest, he's going to be going up first. He's up against Botamo. The Universe 6 tournament has begun, with Bardock battling Botamo in the first round. The fight won't really look too good for the Saiyan, as even with all of his recent training, he just isn't in any high tier of power. Luckily, Botamo's ability to negate attacks makes Bardock's strength irrelevant. Even if he was as strong as him, he still wouldn't be able to hurt Botamo in any way due to this ability. So once he learns of it, Bardock uses Super Saiyan 2 and gives his all trying to wring him out. He grabs Botamo's limbs and tries to trip him up, which works to some extent. But Botamo is also faster than him, so he can stop him in some of these efforts. And a few attack on Bardock will be more than enough to render the Saiyan completely unable to fight. Because of this, Bardock tries his best to avoid these attacks while also trying to grab Botamo's limbs. He manages to trip him up a decent amount, but at the cost of letting Botamo hit him. This leads to a double knockout, with both of them falling out of the ring and being eliminated. So even though Bardock isn't quite as strong as Botamo, he was still able to pull something that allowed him to at least eliminate his opponent. After that, Frost is up next for Universe 6, and Piccolo for Universe 7. The Namekian has the ultimate form, so he's able to use it to give him more power. That, added with his training with Turles and the gang all this time, makes him much more equipped to have this fight. Frost in his 3rd form was equal to base Goku, and we know the 3rd form isn't a massive boost compared to the 1st form, it's only a couple times. This is based on what we see with Frieza on Namek. And Piccolo, at this point in canon, was not anywhere near base Goku. The Frost that he fought in canon was drained from fighting a much more powerful Super Saiyan Goku. So even though our Piccolo here is stronger than in canon, he won't be able to match Frost. Thankfully, he is able to keep up to a certain degree and hold his own, while Frost is holding back. And Piccolo does have the advantage of more skill, so he wouldn't do horribly. But in the end, Frost ends up winning without using any higher forms. So now Gotenks is up next. The boy's fusion is able to beat up Frost's first form. He then begins goading his opponent to go higher, as he knows about his race's forms. So Frost goes into his third form, but Gotenks gets a little frustrated that he's still holding back. So the fusion decides to go Super Saiyan and begin clobbering Frost easily. This eventually forces him to use his final form, allowing for Gotenks to have a much more fun time. He now uses Super Saiyan 3, and the two have a good battle. Eventually, Gotenks decides to end it climactically by using a Super Ghost Kamikaze attack, but Frost knows he can't take much more. So he charges in while Gotenks charges up the attack, punching Gotenks, which stops him in his tracks. The fusion stumbles, saying that he doesn't feel so good before falling out of the ring and then defusing immediately. Frost manages to take another victory, though this one gave him some great damage. And so Turles is now their last hope besides Monaka. Thankfully, the Crusher Corps had noticed some potential foul play in Frost's attack, so they inform Beerus. The god then calls it out, forcing the referee to do a search on Frost's body. This leads to them discovering the poison needles, disqualifying Frost. Turles wants to fight him anyway to humiliate him for relying on that, but Bardock reminds his brother that he's trying to be less cocky. If for some reason that goes wrong and Frost wins, they're down to their last fighter. This makes Turles remember what happened when he was cocky with Frieza, so he agrees to just have Frost be disqualified. The next fighter is Vegeta, and Turles is up to fight him. Turles uses Super Saiyan 2 to battle, and the two clash. When Vegeta uses his heat to gain an advantage, Turles quickly becomes annoyed and yells, calling him names, and begins to overpower him out of the stage. He is declared the winner, and Cabba is his next opponent. With this battle, Turles would find it quite interesting to have such a strong Saiyan from another universe, and it's even more interesting and somewhat sad that he can't transform at all. So Turles decides to be a nice guy and teach him how to transform. He threatens him and his family, eventually managing to provoke him enough to make Cabba go Super Saiyan. After that, Turles beats him anyway and tells him to master the form. Turles then goes Super Saiyan 2 and tells Cabba that if he does that, he'll be able to achieve this state soon after. Cabba thanks him, and Turles one-shots him out of the ring. With that taken care of, Turles prepares to fight the final warrior of Universe 6, Hit. The two have their match, with Turles going Super Saiyan Blue. He can tell that Hit is more powerful than any of the other guys, so he's gonna take him seriously. The two fight, but Hit has a pretty easy time beating Turles by using his time skip. After a decent amount of fighting, Turles is defeated and taken out of the ring. Beerus thinks it's over for him as they only have Monaka left, but the referee agrees to let Gotenks have a second shot since he was poisoned. This isn't really that much of a help though, since even a Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks would get obliterated by Hit while barely even trying. But Turles asks for some time to strategize with Gotenks, and the referee agrees. This leads to Bardock and Piccolo both explaining what they saw happening during Turles' fight with Hit, and Turles trying to help with what he knows. After they've given all of their knowledge, Turles brings Gotenks in for a hug, holding him for a few seconds. Beneath his palm, a glowing light shines slightly, giving his ki to Gotenks through his back. He then lets go, telling Gotenks not to hold back at all and to go all out. The fusion steps up into the ring, with Hit ready to fight him. Gotenks goes Super Saiyan, but feels like there's more now. He can feel a higher tier of power than he hadn't before, and so he powers up further. Gotenks screams out and charges his ki even more while in Super Saiyan, and his hair turns blue. Now Gotenks has managed to unlock some semblance of God Ki due to his time training with Turles after he unlocked it. That was only pushed further by Turles giving him a ton of energy and trying to send some God Ki into him as well. It's the perfect kind of conniving trick that I see Turles pulling in canon if he was here. So the kids would need more training with people who have God Ki to use those forms regularly, but that energy transfer gives it to them temporarily. So now Gotenks is able to fight Hit even better than he did before. For one, he has his energy added onto his own power, making him stronger than Turles. And two, he has knowledge of the time skip and has seen Hit fight. So the two have a decent battle, with Hit having to adapt and improve his time skip. Gotenks continues pushing on, giving Hit a good fight, but since it was given to him, the God Ki was only temporary. So it ran out over time, reverting Gotenks into Super Saiyan God, and then eventually his base form. Hit commended the boy for his impressive power and skill, and proceeded to knock him out of the ring. Fearless was now totally furious and scared, as he knew Monaka had no chance, but thankfully, Hit chose to fake his loss against Monaka like he did in canon. This gives Universe 7 the win. Zeno arrives after that, and Goten and Trunks let him know that they want to do another tournament sometime. They are motivated more than ever now to achieve that tier of power. So after Zeno leaves, Beerus uses the Super Dragon Balls to bring back Champa's Earth. And that's a wrap for the Universe 6 saga. From there, the Crusher Corps makes sure Beerus holds up his end of the deal, and so the God of Destruction has no choice but to train them all personally. Meanwhile, Turles stays on Earth with Nappa and Piccolo to train up Bardock, Goten, and Trunks. After some time, Bardock would step out into the night to get some air and would see the full moon. He still has his tail, so this would lead to a great transformation. He would become an Oozaru, but since he has the Super Saiyan forms, his fur would become golden. This leads to the transformation into a golden Oozaru. The power and noise would wake up Turles, and he would step outside to deal with his brother. Bardock didn't know how to control this form, so Turles was forced to just beat him down by using Super Saiyan God. Once Bardock was knocked unconscious after a decently long battle, he reverted to his base form. Turles took him inside, and in the morning he told Bardock what had happened. This intrigued the Saiyan, as that level of power was the most he had ever felt up to that point. Turles suggested removing his tail, but his brother denied. He wanted a chance to be able to control that power, as it might be useful one day. He can't just let something this useful let go. Turles accepted this, but let him know that if it becomes a problem, he'll have to remove the tail. Bardock agrees, and so the two begin training once again. So now we can leave off there, and I'm just going to ask you guys what you guys think is going to happen in the Goku Black arc, and also if Bardock will be able to control this new power. Actually, if you want to find out, go ahead and check out Part 6 now by using the link in the description and comments, or by searching up Vegan Saiyan's channel yourself. But as always, tell me if you like this part, go watch Part 6 now and find out what happens next. Comment your requests for future videos and subscribe. Thank you for watching, have a great day.